In today's video, we're going to look at congruent triangles. Now, congruent, remember, means those that have the same size, or maybe the same length, or same angle measure. But when we talk about the congruent triangles, they have the same shape and the same size, which means they match completely. So what this means, it means all corresponding parts, okay, the sides that match up together, angles and sides are congruent. So all angles that match up with each angle. So you can have many different congruent triangles here, but you're going to match up, means all their corresponding angles and all corresponding sides will be the same. So let's take a look at a congruency statement. You're going to see this a lot in this unit, okay? When triangles are congruent, we can write a congruency statement. This right here is our congruency statement. It tells me that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. Now, this statement tells me a lot of information. In fact, if I have this statement, then I can draw a triangle and I can deduct all this information on the left here that we have in the pictures here from this figure here. So what this tells me, since A is in the first position, it's going to match up with angle D. B is in the middle, it's going to match up with angle E. And angle C is going to match up with angle F. So because the order, and the order is important here, it lets me know what parts match up. So these are my corresponding parts. This also means that side AB should match up with the first two here, side DE. It means that BC should match up with EF, and that A and C should match up with D and F. So if we look here, we see AB's matched up with ED or DE here. So these have the same marks on them. Okay, they got one congruent line. Now because we have another set of congruent sides, BC, we use 2 marks, which means it's going to match up with EF, so this is going to be 2 marks here. And since we have a third side, we're going to have AC, which is going to be 3. It's going to match up with DF, and we use 3 marks to show that those go together. So a valid congruency statement must match all corresponding angles and sides. So many times you're only going to get the congruency statement, and you can deduct everything that we just looked at in the pictures from that. And sometimes they're going to ask you to write the congruency statement based on the picture. So another topic we're going to look at here, and this is going to come up again in the future, is that you're going to see this phrase CPCTC. Okay, corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. That's what each letter stands for. So corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So if we know 2 triangles are congruent, then we know that each pair of corresponding parts is also congruent. So once we can prove a triangle congruent, then we know that all the corresponding parts are congruent. And we're going to look at this next week. In these next few lessons, we're going to look at how we prove triangles congruent. So let's take a look here. Let's list it says list all the congruent angles and sides given in the congruency statement. So we know that angle here, so let's look at the angles. We know that angle J is going to be congruent to the first one over here, which is angle P. And angle K is going to be matched up with angle Q, it's the middle, and then the one on the end, angle L, is going to match up with angle R. Okay. Now the sides, just like before, we can take the first 2 letters, so JK is going to be congruent to the first 2, which is PQ. And then the last 2, KL, congruent to QR. And it's important that we list these in the right order. You don't want to say RQ, you want to say QR, because that lets us know that Q matches up with K and L matches up with R. And the next one here, the last one, is going to be the first and the third, which is JL, and it's going to match up with the first one and the third, which is going to be PR. So by writing these statements in this order, it lets us know what parts match up with what. Okay? So it says here, write another valid congruency statement. So let's say we mixed up the letters. Let's say I went triangle, let's say I went L, J, K. Okay, we need to match it up over here. Well, we know that L matches up with R, so we'd have to start with R here. We know J matches up with P, so we got to put P next, and then K matches up with Q, so Q goes last. So you could write this in any order, but you just have to make sure whatever you write first, what you write second matches up with the first part. Okay? All right, so let's try another one here. We got these 2 triangles. WXY, and EFG. So once again, the angles, we have W is going to match up with angle E. We have angle X going to be congruent to angle F, and then the last one, angle Y, congruent to angle G. And then the sides, the first two, WX, congruent to EF. Okay, we have XY, congruent to FG. And then the last one here, we have the first and the third, WY, congruent to EG. Once again, make sure the letters are in the right spot. So write another congruency statement here. So we can say triangle, let's say we did Y, WX, match it up over here. So we know Y goes with G. We know that W goes with E. And we know that X goes with F. So we got triangle GEF. All right, so let's look here. Given this statement here, complete all the following statements. Okay. Triangle KPM is congruent to triangle AYC. Now you could mark everything on here if you wanted to. Okay. And that may help you, or you can use your congruency statement. Either way is fine. So KM is the first and third, which means it's going to match up with the first and third, which is AC. Okay. B, we have CY. I'm going from the third to the middle. So this is going to go from M to P. Okay, the next one here is PK. So that's P to K, that's the middle and the first. So we're going to go YA. Got to make sure they match. So angle Y, now we know, is going to match up with angle P. Okay, angle K is going to match up with angle A. Angle ACY, okay? So here's one thing that you want to look at here, ACY. Well, ACY starts at A, goes with C, and goes to Y. That means that's the same thing as saying angle C. The vertex here is at C. So which one does C match up? Well, that's going to be angle M. Now, because I wrote three letters, we need to match this up in the right order, okay? A over here goes with K, so we're going to start with K here. C goes with, of course, it's going to be M, and then Y matches up with P, so it's going to be KMP. So if you mark it over here, KMP refers to this angle right here. Okay, triangle MPK is going to match up with triangle, and because if you look at the order there, MPK, that's going to be CYA. See ya. All right, and then H, triangle YAC is going to match up with, as we look here, Y is going to match up with P, A matches up with K, and C matches up with M, so PKM. All right, so let's try this next one here. So it says find each missing measure here. So we got, let's look here to see what we have matching up. We know that ST is going to match up with BF. So we can use our picture here, ST. It's going to match up with BF. So we'll put these two marked here. So that means that this has got to be 17 centimeters. Okay, we know TW, put 2 marks for the second one. It's going to match up with FN. So we find FN, and this, we're going to put 2 marks here, which means this is going to be 14 centimeters. And that means our third side here, okay, SW is going to match up with BN, which is this side over here. So we know these match up, which means this is going to be 9 centimeters. Okay. Now, so notice here we have 67. So we know that S matches up with B, so that means that this has got to be 67 as well. And if this N is 82, that means that W has to be 82 because 82 corresponds with N. Now, how do we find our third angle? Well, remember, so for finding angle T, we're going to add them up and subtract from 180. So 82 plus 67. And we're going to add those up. And that's going to give us 149. So 180 minus 149 and that's going to give us 31. So 31 is our angle T, which means it's also going to be the same as angle F. So now that we've gone through and filled out our triangle, we can now go back and answer all our questions. Okay, so BN, we know is going to be 9 centimeters. TW, we know is 14 centimeters. BF, 17 centimeters. Now our angles, angle W, we know is 82. Angle B, we said was 67. And our last one, angle F, we know is 31. All right, let's look at number 5 and 6. Okay, let's look at number 5. All right, so try this one here. Pause your video, come back and check your answer when you're done. All right, let's see how you did. So we go through and fill out our triangle. We know that GH is going to match up with XY, so these will be congruent. It says that HJ is going to match up with YZ, so we can mark these. But notice here that we have that these two are congruent already, which means we have an isosceles triangle. So we have, if they're congruent, then we have another isosceles triangle. They give us the vertex angle H, or Y, so we know it's going to match up with the Y matches up with H, so we put 38 there. So the vertex angles match up. So we subtract 180 minus 38, divide it by 2 to get 71, which means our base angles are going to be 71. And we know that these are all going to be congruent here. So we can fill out our chart and get GH is 18, XY is 27, ZY is 27 feet, and the measure of angle H is 38, and measure of angle Z is 71, and angle J would then be 71. All right, so let's take a look here at the next one. So now we have these variables here, so we need to know what matches up with what. So we have X, Y, and Z defined. So let's go ahead and mark on here which sides match up with what. So let's say UV, okay, that matches up with side TS. So we're going to go over here and find TS, and we're going to put a mark. And then we know that VW over here, our second side is going to match up with SR. Okay, so SR is right here. We're going to put 2 marks here. And then UV, the first and the third, is going to match up with the first and third here, which is going to be TR. So we're going to put 3 marks there. So now we know what's going to match up. So if we're going to find X, we have 12X minus 7 is equal to the one mark over here, which is going to be 53. And then for the second one, okay, for Y, we know that 5Y minus 33 is going to match up with the other one over here, it's got 2 marks, which is 57. And then our last one for Z, we have 3Z plus, equals plus 14, and that's going to equal 50, the side it matches up with. Okay, so UW matches up with TR. So now it's a matter of just solving for X. So we're going to add 7. This is going to give us 60 divided by 12. X is equal to 5. So there's our X answer. Now we're going to add 33. Okay, this is going to give us 90 equals 5Y. Divide by 5. And Y is equal to 18. So we got our X and our Y now. Now our Z, we're going to subtract 14. Okay, that's going to be 36 is equal to 3Z. Notice I put the little slash through my Z so they don't look like a 2. Divide by 3. And Z is equal to 12. So we get X, Y, and Z. All right, let's do the next one, number 7. Now we have angle measures, so we need to know which angles match up. So once again, like we did the last one here, we're going to match up P with C. So P, we're going to put one arc here. We're going to put 1 arc for C. H is our middle angle. We're going to put 2 here. And we need to see which one it matches up with, which is the middle over here, which is N. And then the last one here, we have S. We're going to put 3 here with S, and we're going to match it up with F, put 3 marks here. So now we know how to set up our equation. So our x is our 2 here, so we'll go start with x. So we have 6x minus 29. We know it's going to match up, h matches up with n, so it's equal to 115. Okay, let's do our next one here. We'll do a different color so we can see it a little better. Our y value is our third angle, so we're going to have 3y minus 1, and that's going to equal our third one here, which is going to be, all right, notice we don't have that here. Okay, so that means we're going to have to find some other information before we can find this one. Okay, so let's go to the next one here. Let's look at z, and let's set these up and we'll decide which ones we need to find. Okay, so we have z is going to match up with, or its angle c matches up with p, so we're going to have 4z minus 32 is equal to 36. So we have 36, we have 115, which means we can find our third angle already. We can see what we're going to need to put in for y here, this angle with y. So if we take 180 minus the sum of 36 plus 115, because none of those matched up, okay? So we add 36 plus 115, that's going to give us 151, and subtract it from 180, and that should give us, I believe, 29. So that's going to be 29. So it means we put 29 in here. So now we know, now we have enough to solve each one of our equations here. So we'll start with x. We're going to add 29. So we get 6x is equal to 144 divided by 6. And x is equal to 24. So there's our x value. Now let's do our y. So we're going to add 1. 3y is equal to 30. Divided by 3. Y is equal to 10. So now we have our y. And then we go to our z. So we're going to add 32. 4z is equal to 68. Divided by 4. And that gives us z is equal to 17. So there's our x, y, and z. All right, let's look at number 8. So number 8, it says that triangle DEF is congruent to triangle JKL. And DE is equal to 18, EF is equal to 23, and DF is equal to 9x minus 23. JL is equal to 7x minus 11, and JK is equal to 3y minus 21. Find the values of x and y. Okay, so what we're going to do is set up 3 expressions. Now, if you need to, okay, you can draw this picture out and label everything. Or you can use your congruency statement. Okay, so let's x is df. That's the first and the third here. So that means it's going to match up with JL. Do they tell us what JL is? Well, JL matches up with 7x minus 11. So that means that we're going to do 9x minus 23 equal to JL, which is going to be 7x minus 11. So there's our first one. All right, so let's look at the next one now. Okay. The next one here, our y's, we have JK. Well, JK is the first two, so that means it's going to match up with DE. Okay, so look here, they give us DE is 18, so we can say that 3y minus 21 is equal to 18. Okay, now, notice this will help us find x and y here, and they gave us some extra information that we're not going to need to use. So we've got 2 equations here to solve. So this one here, I'm going to bring the 7x over, and I'm going to bring the 23 to the other side. That gives me 2x on the left, and 23 minus 11 is going to be 12. Divide by 2, x is equal to 6. So there's our first answer. Now we'll go do our next one. We're going to add 21. 3y is equal to 18 plus 21, which will give us 39. Divide by 3. Y is equal to 13. So our answers are x equals 6 and y equals 13. So notice we didn't even need to use EF, which was 23. All right, let's look at the last one here. If triangle QRS is congruent to triangle MNP, QR is 11, QS is 15, MP is equal to 2x plus 1, S is equal to 84, R is equal to 32, angle M is equal to 17y minus 4. Find the values of x and y. So our x value here is MP, okay? So that means that MP is going to match up. Let's go ahead and write this down. MP, we know, is going to match up with QS. So MP is our 2x plus 1, and let's see what it matches up with. QS, which they told us is 15. Okay, so we can solve for that one. Let's look for the next one now. All right, so the next one here, we're looking for y. Well, y is going to be angle M. So angle M should match up with angle Q. Okay. Notice they didn't give us angle Q. They gave us the other, they have S, and they gave us R. So that means that these are our two other angles in our triangle, so we need to know what angle Q is. So we can find angle Q by doing 180 minus, so we'll just put angle Q out here, is equal to 180 minus the sum of 84 plus 32. So if we add 84 plus 32, that's going to give us 116. So 180 minus 116. And we subtract that, that's going to give us 64. So angle Q is equal to 64. So now, when we put M over here, we have 2x. Excuse me, not 2x. We have 17y minus 4 equal to 64. So we found all our measures here. We can now solve for x and y. So let's go back here. We're going to subtract 1. 2x is equal to 14. After we divide by 2, x is equal to 7. So there's our first answer. Then our second answer, we're going to add 4. 17y is equal to 68. Divide by 17. And y is equal to 4. So that's how we find our two answers there. All right. All right, so this concludes our lesson on congruent triangles.